Hello, my name is Kevin and I collect old irons. In a previous video we talked about the cast iron hand fluters, these being more or less peculiar to the United States, starting in about 1866, prolific into the 1880s, but still being patented and produced into the early 20th century. Today we're going to talk about the machine fluters, and we might start with the provenance of the fluting irons, which would be in England. In England, going back for hundreds of years, there was a variety of fabric that they used to crimp, or they sometimes call it goffering. And somewhere in the middle of the 1800s, they came up with some very substantial devices to do this. These devices would be about yay tall, about yay wide. I've had a couple, but they are so large, I've passed them on to other collectors because my space is valuable and I'd rather have that space occupied by American fluting irons. But a few years ago at an auction, a small one came up, and I said, that's just my style. So this is an English machine fluter. Now, ordinarily, this would be maybe more than twice the height and almost twice the width. They have a basically square base. Now, these things usually have screw holes. These would be bolted to a workbench. And the flutes, now, you would be able to rotate this, rotating some fabric through here to crimp. The English fluters had a very fine fluting size, and you would heat these by some slugs, and I do not have the slugs for this particular one, that would fit through the handle and into here as well. The English fluters, very open design in the bottom, and the fluting rollers are off to the side, balanced by the handle. Very, very different from American designs. By the way, we can control the tension by screwing this and the spring here up and down. Let me put that aside. I do have a second, not very large, English fluter. This came from Quebec. I do wonder if the Canadians might have been making some of these as well. This one has a closed bottom. Again, I can rotate this like this. I can control the tension here. This was heated by some slugs that could be inserted into the rollers from here and through the handle here. And this one is particularly interesting because it has a probably homemade workbench in which this is screwed into. The workbench includes a little box here with some extra slugs that I can heat up and put into the rollers. This particular specimen I found in central Maine and near Old Town. Dan, I got this from you. And it was $50. It was missing the handle. I usually wouldn't buy something missing pieces because finding the missing piece is very difficult. But I knew that these are out there. I bought it and then just watched patiently on eBay until one of these came up with a lot of damage in one of the corners here. I wasn't worried about the base. I just bought it and took the handle and placed it on here. So these are the European, or I should say English, machine fluters. Again, these pretty much only used in England. And the diversity in England, there is not much diversity. There were different manufacturers, and they sometimes would have some different names to them. This one has no markings at all. But that would be about the end of it. They're all very similar. We have visited some European collections, and they would have one English machine fluter. No point in having too many of them. They're pretty much all alike. But then there'd be a shelf or two of American fluters, because it's the American fluters that are the really interesting and diverse. So let's start with the American fluters. And we're going to start with two of the 1866 patent holders, both of whom are women and are very important in the general story about irons, and particularly fluting irons. We'll start with this one here. This is by Henrietta Cole. Henrietta Cole had a series of irons very much along the English design that we have already seen, that is with the rollers sticking out. Again, there'd be some heaters that would go into the holes here. What she had was she had a weight here that I can unscrew and I can move back and forth to tighten the tension, the pressure upon these rollers. This particular device would be screwed onto a table. I have now built a base to display this. So Henrietta Cole produced several fluting designs in the late 1860s. They may have started to set the standard for American fluting irons in some ways. These flutes are larger and deeper than anything in the English machine fluters, but the weight system was rather cumbersome, and there was obviously need for something better. Enter Susan R. Knox, and I have a very nice Susan R. Knox iron to show. This is the original box that I got it in, and in which I keep this one comfortably housed at all times. But I've pulled it out for here, and here she be. This is the original Knox, has the original paint on it, and it also has, in this oval cabochon design on the base, it has her photograph on paper pasted in there. You very, very seldom see this preserved. So this is a photograph of Susan Knox, as good as we have of hers. She did not produce trade cards as some of the other iron producers did. Susan Knox was a great businesswoman for her era. And we talked about Florence Potts. Now, Florence Potts was far more famous because her design got well marketed, but she didn't do that marketing. She had sold the patent to somebody else, and they ran with it. She got very little of the benefit for that. Susan Knox kept her patent, and she marketed it herself to a variety of various foundries, each doing their own version of her basic design. She also was somewhat litigious. She defended her patent against usurpers who tried to copy some of her products. So her name appears on quite a number of different irons produced by different manufacturers. The basic design has the rollers in the middle of the structure, with bounded on both sides. The handle is over here. The handle can be taken off, and the slugs would go in here and through here as well. We can turn this inside view. Now she has a clamp which would clamp to a table. There is a base here, and the base is the basic structure of this machine fluter. She also can, by varying these levers on the back, you can pick it up so you can put the fabric in, and you can also control the tension as you roll the fabric through the fluting iron. So, very interesting design, and most of the American fluting irons basically follow on with this. And we'll start by looking at some of the irons that are very, very common, probably made by the same company that made this particular version, which is the American Machine Company in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I have another box. You might notice it says one fluting machine on the front, and I'm going to pull this out. This box does not have the top, and the iron itself is nowhere near as pristine as the one we previously saw. But this is a very, very common, probably the most common machine fluter. It's known as the Crown, and let's just pause for a moment and remind ourselves from the 1902 Sears and Roebuck image, all three of these referred to as Crown fluters, but the bottom one being the Crown machine fluter. These were still being marketed in 1902. The Crown was a term very popular with the American Machine Company, which made this, patented in 1875, renewed in 1877. Again, you have slugs that you can put in here. You have special wrench that you use to do that, and you can control the tension here and so forth. The American Machine Company marketed its fluting irons with trade cards, and they worked very closely with the Enterprise Company, also of Philadelphia, PA, and they produced quite a number of closely similar but different fluting machine designs, each one with its own particular card. And let's just take a look at another of these. This one also very common, in somewhat better condition. This is the American fluting machine. This particular one is patent applied for. Later ones had patent dates on them. This one has a little shelf. You can change the orientation of the shelf and the pressure on the flutes with the knob here. And we can take a look at the trade card for this one as well. These trade cards, and there were at least 8 basic trade card designs, tended to have children who would be dancing around the fluting machine. The various names that American Machine Company machines carried were Eclipse and Star and Eagle and Union, and there were some other names as well. So these two, the Crown and the American fluting machines, both of them are especially common. You can get them for $50, maybe $75. You do want to, if you can, find one that has the beautiful markings here. And American Machine Company in particular liked to have this very garish red and gold marking throughout the various machines. While still on the subject of fluting machines of the general design as the American Machine Company, let's take a look at this one. This is the Chandler Machine Company from Ayer, Massachusetts. It's big. It's quite heavy. What is it? This is an electric fluter machine. This is one node. This is another node. Let's see now. Here's the cord, and if I put one here and put one there, then I have a heating element within the top roller. I would turn it by a belt-driven system from perhaps the floor, and I think that the paint is original. It has a neat little serial number here. It has a neat little brass rather than wood knob here. This is a fluting machine that must go some distance into the 20th century. And by the way, I have seen similar kinds of devices with these kind of knobs and whatnot retrofitted to Crown and Knox machines. Those Crown and Knox machines being identical, if not being actually from the 1870s or 1880s. So these fluting irons have a much longer history than we generally understand. So fluting machines were used until sometime in the 20th century. I think they were also used much earlier than that. This is a Charles Holmes fluter from 1870, and I think this one was used commercially as well. It's got a very heavy round base. It's very ruggedly built. Slugs would have gone in the holes here. Again, you'd turn this manually. And with that, my next fluting machine has a round bottom as well. Let's see if we can do this effect. Here we are. This is the Eli Manville fluter. It has a crank here. This one has some rather garish markings. I actually got this one to replace a previous one that I had and still have. it had been repainted, so I wanted something more original, and was much surprised to find that this one is actually of smaller size and has some other differences to the other one that I had previously have and still have. And that's one of these interesting things we find about these fluting machines. These had long enough histories that the companies would new and improve and jigger with their molds and so forth and produce something that is more than just a variant. As with the hand fluters, there are just so many different types, some of them fairly rare. This is the Levitt fluter from Province Street, Boston. There's little doors on the side here that we can open, and we can let me grab the little tool here, and we can pull out these slugs, put them back in. Fairly hard to come by. And let me bring out another one. This is on this side it says Dudley fluter, and it is patented 1876 from Lockport, New York. Interesting design. I first saw photos of this, and I thought I knew what I was looking at. I thought I was looking at a combination fluter, this being a fluting iron flat iron, but I've got to show you that there is no flat surface on the underside. Very interesting. Also comes in at least 2 general designs. Unusual fluting iron. So many machine fluters. We saw near the beginning of this video the Henrietta Cole, which was a clamp-on without a base. Here's some other clamp-on fluters. There's quite a number of them if you seek them out. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Never mind the various companies if I know them. There are others as well. So much variety, and this one, I'll tell you this one. This one's the Champion. Again, I have a little knob back here I can turn. But wait, this comes in left-hand and right-handed versions. So the fluters are an astonishingly interesting group. It's a favorite group for many iron collectors such as I, but there's more. In the next video, we're going to take a look at combination fluters. That is to say, fluting irons designed to also do other ironing activities. So we will see you again, and thank you again for your time.